Hiya, today's video is all about oily skin. So if you want something to kind of help control oil, keep your complexion looking matte all day, keep coverage where you want it, this is the video for you. As always, everything I've used is listed in the description of the video. So if you click to make it full screen, the title will come up along the top. Click the arrow next to it and a full list of products will drop down. But by all means, please feel free to use these tips with whatever you've already got in your makeup bag. Now, when it comes to using primer, I'd say like a large majority of the time I'm not always into them. I think if they do something like add a bit of glow or make your skin a bit more mattified, then there's a great purpose for them, but I'm not someone that just uses a primer for the sake of having it in your routine. That said, in terms of working with oily skin, I think they can be really powerful. And the best one I have tried by a mile for oily skin is this Murad Oil and Pore Control Mattifier. This is also one of the ones that over the years, I would say if someone buys this because they've seen it in a video, they'll send me a message and say, do you know what, thank you so much for recommending that. And it's not the cheapest, and I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't wholeheartedly believe it did a really good job. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm first of all going to take it just where I notice slightly more open pores. Now for me, that is the sides of the nose, the top of the forehead there and the chin, and even that much is actually loads. I probably won't use all of it. Now I'm going to really buff this in and make sure I've set it right down, and then I'm going to leave a little gap. You know, if this was first thing in the morning for you, you might want to make a cup of tea or put your clothes on or just do something to kill a couple of minutes so that you've given it a chance to kind of settle, and then you can go in and use your product over it. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you this one today, I actually just made a TikTok video, and someone had said to me, because I keep saying like, if you want to ask a question, I'll make a video a bit like I do on here. And someone had said, what's the best primer for powder foundation? So I did this with a powder, and you know when you're like, gosh, I haven't used that in ages. I feel like I've been in this really like glowy, dewy world, and actually when you see this again, it sits really nicely. But what I would say is, if I hadn't given that a second to set, it's creamy, and then I'm putting a powder on top of it, which isn't going to be a compatible match. I just want to give it 2 minutes to kind of settle down. In the time I've been harping on to you, that's probably plenty. One of the things I would also say, let's bear in mind a bit of an oily skin here. I'm more combination. I've got areas of dryness, and then the centre of my face is quite oily. If you have an oily skin and ideally you're wearing an SPF every day, I'm sure you are, you know I always tell you about that. You might be using your skincare routine that you like, then you might be using your primer, your foundation. This is a lot of steps. Now, the SPF needs to go everywhere. But who's to say that the primer does? Who's to say that the foundation does? If we can use the products in as little places as possible and get the maximum results, not only are you going to have a more comfortable wear because you haven't plastered your face with loads of things, but also you're going to use less of your products, top them up less often, and spend less money in the long run. So this is all a set of deliverables I think we can agree with. I'm going to go in with the original It Cosmetics I've completely forgotten the name, Celebration Foundation. We've been doing a concealer on QVC, and I feel like I'm actually talking about it in my sleep at this point. It's the 28th of June, and it's been like a big focus for the whole month. So anything else has actually fallen completely out of my head there. I'm going to pick some of this up. This is a Smashbox cream cheek brush. What I like about this is it's a small little size that it's not going to automatically wash my whole face. I'm keeping an eye on the time. I've been talking to you for 5 minutes and I've put nothing on my face. I'm going to get going now. Right, one of the nice things about this powder, I always say this particular powder is a really full coverage, but you have to build it up. and that's quite nice. You know, not everyone wants to go straight in with a completely full coverage. So it's not as quick as, you know, other options where you just swipe it on and you're done. But this means that you've got more control. And when it comes to covering patches of redness like me, it means that I can kind of really go to town where it's especially red, then kind of soften it out so that it blends into nothing. And it helps you to fake this kind of all over polish without needing to put your product all over. Now, I am paying attention really to the areas where I put the primer. And I'm really, again, using such a soft touch to do this. In particular, if you're using a powder or anything that is labelled as a full coverage, if you use too much pressure when you apply it, you're not going to be building that coverage. And so really gently skimming this on in lots of little layers and building it up is going to be the best way to go. I'm just going to put a little touch here and there. I'm kind of laughing to myself. Basically, the TikToks I was making today are video replies to comments I've had on a video that was quite popular over the weekend. And basically in this video I was like, you don't need to put foundation everywhere, you can just put a touch of concealer here and there and it'll be fine. But I put the concealer like absolutely everywhere, and everyone's going, that's not just a touch. It is true, I had put it everywhere. But basically, if I had kind of followed my own set of rules, I haven't put that all over my forehead, all over the cheeks, everywhere. I don't think I've put any down my nose. Maybe I did. I've been so busy talking I haven't noticed. But it looks completely flawless. Now that's a matte finish, and I thought while we're going down the matte route, I only found this recently. I feel like now that there's this 90s revival on the internet, all of the old makeup things, people are being like, this is what I wore at school, this, that, the other. And I kept seeing Maybelline Dream Matte Mousse. But I had no idea there was a Maybelline Dream Matte Blush. Now, I'm layering this really gently on each side. And I think especially if you've used a full coverage, it's really important to add those little touches of life back into the skin. Because say if you are avoiding the likes of a shiny highlighter, a little bit of a colour in the right place can help you to achieve the illusion of that kind of light and dark, of, you know, contours of the skin, cheekbones, things like that. They're very easy to create when you're using shiny makeup, but not necessarily when you're sticking to the matte textures. Now, I was having a little look next door, where have I put it? One of the products I would say, if you want luminosity without looking sparkly, is this Honest Beauty Skin Luminizer. It just gives you a bit of radiance without necessarily looking like you've put something golden or shimmering on. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of this, just in a few little places, and add a little bit of healthy radiance without adding anything too shiny. And then when it comes to powdering a powder foundation, I know this might sound counterintuitive because you might be thinking, well, I've just used an oil control primer, a powder foundation, why do I need any further powder? I would just say that a translucent setting powder is so sheer in texture, and it's really designed to set everything in place and kind of instantly reduce the appearance of any shininess. You can build and build and build this through the day. You can take it out with you for these little touch-ups and it won't look thick or cakey. Whereas if you keep layering your powder foundation, you're adding more and more coverage, which in turn will look thicker. It can crease and crumble because you don't want to build too much of that thicker product. So a nice sheer powder, setting powder from wherever you want to get your powder from, is just going to be great for those little touch-ups through the day. And you might just wish to take your brush at the end and make sure you've really gone over anywhere that's prone to slipping or moving around, and just get in there with a bit of damage control before it actually happens. But there you go. And to summarise, I'd say really the key takeaway is don't just automatically use every product all over the face. Pick and choose where those problem areas are, put the product on there, and then anything that you can get away with, keep it nice and fresh. And that way you'll get a really hydrating, healthy looking wear that doesn't look too heavy but still keeps your makeup looking flawless all day. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, please feel free to let me know in the comments here if there's anything in particular you want to see. I don't go back to my DMs, but I always check the comments, so feel free to make any suggestions or ask any questions. Have a lovely evening, and I'll chat to you soon.